Yo, what's up guys, we're back. We're going to be doing another video here, UFC Vegas 33 early predictions, breaking down the odds. And this week, just like last week, I'm going to be doing early predictions, so don't take these at full face value. I might go back and switch my pick, and do take that into account actually. Usually I've noticed, like when I have a opinion and then I end up switching my opinion after watching tape, I usually do get that fight correct. I'm usually pretty good at that. For instance, last week, with Nasruddin Imavov versus Ian Heinisch, I originally, on this video came up, said I thought Ian Heinisch probably should get the win, but eventually switched my pick and Imavov was able to get that victory. So make sure to check that out. If I switch my pick, maybe it's a, good indicator to potentially put a bet on somebody. But just like always, before we get the video started, I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's on my Patreon. You guys really help the channel move forward, support the channel, help me keep putting out videos and keep doing this content for you guys. And if you're not part of the Patreon, this week would be a great week to join because we have ex-MMA, we have John Dodson fighting on that card, some other UFC fighters, really good card. We got LFA, we got Bellator with AJ McKee taking on Patricio Pitbull, which is one of the best fights in Bellator history. So there's going to be a lot of content on the Patreon this week. I'm going to be doing videos for Bellator, probably for LFA, for XMA. I'm going to be doing written breakdowns. I'm going to be doing a lot of bets. I'm going to be betting on the UFC. So make sure to go check out Patreon. Check it out. Tell me what you think. The link is going to be in the description. And you'll get access to a lot of really good content over there. So definitely recommend that. But as far as this video goes, like always, we're going to break down the odds. We're going to talk about the matchups a little bit. I'm just going to kind of give you my initial opinion on the fight. So first fight of the night, we got the main event. We got Sean Strickland taking on Uriah Hall. We got Strickland coming in here as a minus 220 favorite. Right away, I do favor Strickland to win the fight. And I think that, just his pressure, his boxing style is probably going to be able to break Uriah Hall, his flashy kicking game. But if these two guys are going to keep it on the feet, stay striking, which I believe they will. Sean Strickland has a big advantage on the ground. He probably can get the takedowns, but he's a guy that goes in there, wants to have fun fights for the fans, wants to brawl, and this is going to be a stand-up fight more than likely. So Strickland has to be very careful with the spinning attacks, the kicks, the knees, just all the dynamic things that Uriah Hall could do, because Strickland has gotten finished with the spinning hook kick before. He is very durable, but we have seen him put down. And with Uriah Hall, he's just a very dangerous guy. But Uriah Hall, we've seen, can struggle against forward pressure guys, can struggle in tough fights. He can kind of check out mentally. I feel like his chin isn't the best either, and he has a tendency to get hit, kind of shell up and, not quit, but he can kind of give his opponent the win by giving the fight away. He is really good at coming back, but he has gotten finished early quite a few times as well. So ultimately, I do think the line is a little bit wide. I feel like maybe Strickland should be like minus 150 favorite, because really Strickland hasn't faced a super high level of competition since he came back from his injury. He did defeat Brendan Allen. That was really impressive. His last win was really impressive, but he hasn't fought a dynamic striker like this. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. I do think the fight doesn't go to decision, minus 175. Those odds are pretty solid. And also I'm seeing here the over under and a half, the under 1.5 round, or the under 3.5 rounds, excuse me. I would say under 3.5 rounds is also a solid bet as well. You have basically full 3 rounds halfway through the 4th round to hope for a finish plus money. I feel like that's probably going to hit right there. So that's another bet maybe I'm going to be putting on. Maybe you could target as well. So for the main event, I got Sean Strickland, but I do think the line might be a little bit wide there. This Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell fight is not on this card. I'm not positive about that, but I'm pretty sure. Chris Daukaus, Shamil, Abdurakhimov, kind of already talked about this one a little bit last week. They were scheduled to fight last week, and I ended up looking into Shamil a little bit, and I was impressed with the striking, man. I gotta say, I feel like he's a very kind of unsung, underrated, not talked about guy that much, and it's his fault. He hasn't really fought in a long time. But I do feel like there's a little bit of recency bias packed in the line to have Chris Daukaus at an almost minus 200 favorite. It's just, he's been on such a roll right now, 4 knockouts in a row. Are you really wanting to try to get in front of that with the guy like Shamil Abdurakhimov, who's a little bit on the older side, making a comeback after, a layoff? It's a little bit hard to truly be, confident laying that bet down on Shamil, in my opinion. But if you look at Chris Daukaus' opponents previous to Shamil Abdurakhimov, none of them have been as good as strikers. None of them has been as technical. None of them has been as good of movers. So Shamil is going to give him some issues. He's going to be looking to counter. Daukaus isn't going to be able to, use his speed to counter Shamil most likely, because Shamil is very educated. He's not going to put himself in very bad positions. So could be a chess match type of fight. I think it's a very interesting bout there with Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus. And if I'm just looking at the money line, I would say maybe Shamil has some value there. But, I'm just not probably willing to pull that trigger. For the over 1.5, under 1.5 rounds, I do think the over 1.5 rounds minus 155 is decent value. I mean, we have seen Chris Daukaus get 3 knockouts in a row in the first round in the UFC. But like I said, he was fighting guys that kind of didn't really have a lot of movement. Parker Porter, he fought Rodrigo Nascimento, he fought Alexei Oleinik. So now he's fighting a legit striker. He's going to be moving, grooving. Shamil, he has been finished by strikes 3 times, but it was all ground and pound, and he's never been finished by knockout on the feet. So Daukaus, I don't really see him trying to get takedowns. He is probably better on the ground, and I do think Shamil, his takedown defense is really bad, but Daukaus, probably going to keep it standing. It'll be an interesting fight there. The over probably does have some decent value on it. With this next fight, Bryan Barberena versus Jason Witt. They got Bryan Barberena as a huge favorite right away. I'm just looking at that. I mean, he was a big favorite his last fight against Anthony Ivey, and he got it done, but it was a little bit ugly. But Bryan Barberena, he's one of those guys where he's like a perennial underdog type of guy that you want to bet on him at an underdog price. Betting on him at minus 250, minus 260, I mean, I think that's kind of bad business all the way around. But Barberena against Jason Witt, and you're just looking at the matchup, Jason Witt, he's a good wrestler, grinder, good cardio. And fuck, man, he made me look like an idiot last time. I actually took a stab on him against Matthew Semmelsberger, and, he got taken out real quick. So his chin, that's definitely a huge weakness for Jason Witt, as he has a very bad chin. But, I mean, I got to look into this one a little bit more. Barberena, it's not like he's the best wrestler in the world. Anthony Ivey was able to get 5 takedowns, have over 5 minutes of control time. So Jason Witt, I do feel like, is a kind of a live underdog at the price. Wouldn't recommend betting Bryan Barberena at minus 260. Wouldn't recommend putting him in parlays personally because, Barberena's a tough veteran. He's a guy that goes out there, goes to war. He breaks people. But man, I mean, he's not someone that I want to be betting at that price. So if you like Jason Witt, you can maybe look into him a little bit, see if you like him as an underdog, and dog or pass type of situation right there. But Roman Kopylov versus Sam Alvey, we got a guy in Sam Alvey who, always brings the fights. He's very fun to watch. He has a lot of knockouts. His last fight against Julian Marquez was an absolute war, and that was his return to 185. But he's lost 6 fights in a row, Sam Alvey. Or I think he's lost 5 out of 6, had the 1 draw, against Daong Jung. And I actually rolled with Sam Alvey against Daong Jung. I picked him to get that win. I actually thought he deserved the win. And, unfortunately, they didn't give him the win. And then I had him again against Julian Marquez. I just thought maybe he was going to be able to land some clean shots, get the knockout, look better at 185s. But I didn't really like what I saw from him at that weight class again. I feel like the weight cut maybe played a factor. He just didn't look very good in my opinion. He really went for it. It was a fun back and forth fight. But now in here against a guy like Roman Kopylov, he's a 2-1 underdog here, but Roman Kopylov hasn't proven anything. I mean, the guy went in there against Carl Roberson, lost his UFC debut, and, has no UFC wins, hasn't fought in quite a long time. He, I do think is probably the rightful favorite, though. I got to look into this matchup a little bit more, check out Roman again. Don't really remember 100% how he fights. But he has 7 knockouts out of his 8 wins, so it seems like he's a dangerous guy with some power. I do remember him being a little bit undersized at 185, I feel like, against Kopylov, or against Roberson. So Alvey may have a nice little size advantage. And he obviously has a big experience gap. He's a southpaw, he's tricky, but Kopylov, probably is going to be the guy I end up picking, probably the rightful favorite in that one, but have to look into that one a little bit more. This next one, this is another one I got to look into a little bit more, with Cheyenne Bays taking on Gloria de Paula. It's an interesting one because I remember in de Paula's last matchup, I actually had kind of a contrarian viewpoint. I bet on Jinyu Frey, and de Paula was a pretty decent favorite. It seemed like everyone was picking her that week. People were betting on her, and I actually ended up being correct in kind of what I saw. De Paula just didn't have the takedown defense. She was taken down, grinded out for basically the entire fight. Jinyu Frey was able to just kind of win on points in that one. And now she's going to be taking on Cheyenne Bays, who, had a really bad UFC debut where she was a big favorite against Conejo Ruiz Montserrat. And, she just shit the bed, man. She kept getting head and arm thrown. She didn't know what to do to defend that. Didn't know how to get out of that scarf hold position, and just was a terrible fight. There was controversy at the end of the fight. It was probably more fun than anything that happened during the fight. But Bays, she's at Extreme Couture. She obviously has her boyfriend that she trains with, JP, who's like a very good, or husband that's a very good UFC fighter as well. And I feel like Cheyenne Bays, she comes in here with the game plan to hit the takedowns in this one. She'll probably be able to do it, but I don't necessarily agree with her being a favorite right now. Like I said, I have to kind of look more into this one as well. But, Bays minus 185 after she just lost as a minus 450 favorite. De Paula, she might be getting undervalued here. She just was a favorite, lost. Now she's a decent underdog. So, De Paula might be a look there, but probably a pass on that fight, I would say. And then, the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190. I feel like it's going to go to decision. I don't see anyone getting a finish personally, to be honest with you. So, that might be a parlay piece you could use. This next fight, Chris Grutzmacher versus Rafa Garcia. Two similar guys. I mean, we got guys that come forward, try to bring the fight. Grinders, great cardio, can mix it up. But I just feel like Garcia's on another level athletically. He's younger, he's faster. I think he has better durability. I think he has a better wrestling, better striking. So I definitely agree with the line. I think Garcia should be a pretty big favorite there. And I think he could even be maybe even a bigger favorite than he is. Chris Grutzmacher returned 3 years away from competition, or 2 years away. Took on Alex Hernandez, got knocked out really quickly. And he has to prove himself in this matchup, prove that he still has it, prove he can still hang around in this division. But they're throwing him in there against a young, up-and-coming guy, former Combate Americas champion, guy that's training with Justin Gaethje, with Trevor Whitman all the time, getting a lot of good knowledge. And I think he's going to go in there and probably run through Chris Grutzmacher. So going with Rafa Garcia in that one, and I think he's going to look good there. This next fight, we got Kyung Ho Kang making his return after quite a long time away, taking on Yahya, the specialist, the veteran. Really fun matchup here. We got two pretty high-level guys that are unsung, not really talked about in the division. We got Yahya, who has, a really good UFC record, and he's been in the UFC for years. He's really an underrated guy, but Kyung Ho Kang as well. I mean, this guy's a big guy, very skilled. I'm a fan of him. He had a, really close fight with Ricardo Ramos that didn't go his way, but I actually thought he won, and he's ran 3 off in a row after that, though, so he's been looking good. He's gotten 2 split decision wins in a row, so he is fighting very close. Just right now when I'm thinking about the matchup, I kind of favor Kang. I think that he's going to be a little bit bigger, probably be able to keep it on the feet. But that's another one I have to look into because I don't necessarily remember 100% how good Kang's takedown defense is. If he has kind of suspect takedown defense, that's where you got to go in on Yahya. So Yahya, he's a guy that I like to bet on too, especially when he's the underdog, because you know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to go in there, he's going to fight to a game plan, he's dangerous, he's a chance to get an early finish. And, he usually dominates early on, and then you have to kind of worry about him slowing down. But it's going to be one I got to look into a little bit more. Don't really have a strong opinion on the matchup right now, but kind of leaning towards Kyung Ho Kang. This next fight, we got Colin England taking on Melsik Bagdasaryan. Fun fight. We got Colin England, who's moved to Factory X full-time before his last fight, and I felt like he looked better than ever. he, improved his striking quite a bit, in my opinion, defensively. His striking is not on the level of Melsic's and makes a lot of mistakes, so I feel like Melsic could potentially make him pay, knock him out early. But Anglin is shown to be very durable. He takes a lot of big shots, keeps coming forward, stays in your face, and he's going to have the grappling edge in this one. He's going to be trying to hit the takedowns, bring the fight to the ground, very similar to his last fight. He was a huge underdog in that fight against Muhammad Naimov, like plus 400 underdog, and I actually bet on him. Day to White Contender Series is coming up, man. That's always medicine for me. Sometimes I'm having slow years, not doing too great, and then that comes around, and I usually always pick it up after that. I have good, really good reads on the Contender Series, at least so far, and that was another one where I picked Colin England as a huge underdog. He was able to go in there and get the victory, and I'm going to pick him again here against Melsic Bagdasaryan, who Melsic, he's an elite striker. He's a former Glory striker. He's one of these Armenian guys that trains over there with Edmund, Coach Edmund, and over there at Glendale Fighting, and they got a lot of really good Armenian strikers down there. But they all have the same issues, man, cardio issues, and they have issues with grapplers, and that kind of showed a little bit in Melsic's last fight, where he did struggle a little bit getting taken down. He slowed down a little bit. I will say Melsic showed a lot of heart. He won the third round and really kind of picked it up to win the fight. But still green, man. He has 5 wins in the MMA. 4 of them are in under 1 minute, and he does have 1 loss where he was submitted. His last fight was against a guy, Dennis Bazooka, who is more of a striker, and Dennis even had some success with the grappling. So I do feel like England, if he could take the shots, pressure early, get inside, get some takedowns, he could start wearing on Melsic and make it an easier fight. He has to kind of push the pace and not stay on the outside as much as he does in certain fights. He has to close that gap and really make it more of a wrestling match. So I'm going to go with Colin England in this one. I think he's going to be able to get it done, but it's a close fight. It's a fun fight. 2 prospects right there. And this next one, we got Mounir Lazzez taking on Niklas Stolze. And Mounir Lazzez, 2-1 favorite in this one. Niklas Stolze, from what I remember, against Ramzan Ameev, he seemed like a decent fighter. But I feel like Mounir, I don't know. He's a tough guy to really cap. He has a lot of skills, but then you see his last fight against Warley Alves, and you see, when a guy starts really fast on him, maybe he has a tendency to kind of fold up. He doesn't really react that well to, forward pressure. So it's interesting. I mean, he showed a lot of heart against Razak Al-Hassan. He showed a great chin, but his body kind of, took a beating in his fight with Warley, and he gave in. So this is another one of these fights with Niklas Stolze where I have to kind of look into him a little bit more, kind of re-jog my memory on how he fights. But I don't really like Lazzez as a minus 200 favorite. I think I even said that in his last fight against Warley Alves, where I said, when you have these guys who, when he fought Abdurakhimov Al-Hassan, he was like a plus 300 underdog, and then you see him, he has a good performance. You see Abdurakhimav's performances after that, it kind of diminishes the win. But then you see him in his next fight against a guy like Warley Alves, he's a big favorite, like over 2-1 favorite. Then once again, in his next match, he's over 2-1 favorite. These are fighters where maybe, they got overvalued, and you could get, 2 fades in as them as the favorite, get some underdog money, and get the win. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Maybe a dog or pass situation here with Mounir Lazzez taking on Niklas Stolze, but probably going to be picking Mounir as of now. Got to look into that one a little bit more, but thinking Mounir, but, don't really like the price tag on him. We had Nicco Montano versus Yanan Wu. Montano, she hasn't fought in quite a long time, but she's had a lot of scheduled fights. She's been training. She's at Syndicate MMA, training in Vegas, training at the PI, so she's getting a lot of good work in. And, she's a grinder, man. She's really strong in the clinch. She has decent striking, and you've seen her go in there with some really good grapplers and out-grapple them. And you've seen her go in there with some really good grapplers, like her last fight with Juliana Pena, and give them a lot of issues. So she definitely has proven that she's high level in the grappling realm. With Yanan Wu, that's kind of proven to be a weakness of hers. You see her fight against Gina Mazzani, she got taken down, controlled. And Yanan Wu, to me, she's not the most skilled girl, but she's young, she's big, she hits hard, she's training at Tiger Muay Thai. So, she has the ability to improve. But as of now, just from what I've seen, I think Nicco Montano probably be able to just grind this one out, controlling the clinch, get some takedowns. It is interesting, though, because Yunnan hasn't fought in quite a while. She's young, like I said, so may come in here looking like a different fighter, look really good. But I think Nicco will get this one done. I think that she's just going to be able to use her grappling, be too dominant, and get the win there. This next one, we got Orion Kosi taking on Philip Rowe. Man, this is an interesting fight where the line's kind of coming down a little bit to maybe a bettable price, in my opinion, on Orion Kosi. But, it's hard to trust these Kosi brothers, man, because they haven't really tested themselves too much. I will say, though, Orion's last fight against Matt Dixon, I do think that was a legit win. Matt Dixon looks like an athletic guy with technical striking and good wrestling. And Orion was able to break that guy. So that was a good fight. But with Phil Rowe, man, it's such a weird look for a guy at 170 pounds. I mean, the guy has an 81.5-inch reach. He has like the same reach as John Jones. And Phil Rowe, he had kind of a bad debut against Gabe Green. I didn't think he performed all that well. But Phil Rowe's a skilled guy, man. He has good boxing. Like I said, he has that long reach. He throws long, straight shots, good combinations. And his movement is pretty decent. That's going to be what he's trying to do against Orion Kosi. He's going to be wanting to move around, cut angles, try to land those long-range strikes. Kosi, not really a technical striker. He's more of just a athletic guy that is explosive, pressures forward, and likes to back guys to the cage, uses power, flurry, and he has big knockout power. So if he lands clean, he can knock you out. And we've seen Phil Rowe kind of not have the best chin, so that is a big path to victory for Kosi. But he wants to either, use combos against the cage or take you down, control you on the ground, control you in the cage. He has good wrestling, good grappling overall. His defensive grappling, he can be taken down, but he does a good job of working back up to his feet. He has good scrambling ability, and he was able to break Matt Dixon, where Dixon took him down a couple times but couldn't control him. And then by the third round, he was very tired from trying to take him down, try to control Kosi, and, he gassed out that third round. Kosi went in, got the takedown, got on top, finished Matt Dixon on the ground. So, when he gets on top, Kosi is very good with his ground and pound. But I have seen Kosi swept. And Phil Rowe, he's one of these guys where he doesn't have good wrestling at all. I think Kosi will be able to control him in the clinch, take him down very easily. But he has a, tricky ground game. He has good sweeps. His guard is hard to pass because of his height. And, he basically won all those grappling exchanges against Gabriel Green, in my opinion, because he was able to sweep, get on top. And when he got on top, he was able to control, do damage, work dominant positions. And, that's going to be his game against Orion Kosi. He's going to be wanting to try to outskill the guy on the feet, keep it long, keep it technical. When he gets to the ground, if he gets taken down, try to stay safe or sweep, get on top, then go to work. And if he can outskill a guy like Orion Kosi, then that's going to be his path to victory. But Orion Kosi is going to try to outwill and out-athletic Phil Rowe. So he's going to try to close that gap, get him against the cage, use his big shots, touch Phil Rowe on the chin, take him out, or, grind him out, take him down, pound on him. And Kosi has shown, in my opinion, a lot more than his brother that he has cardio. So I don't think that's going to be a factor. I don't think he's going to slow down in the fight. And I do feel like Kosi is going to win, and I'm fairly confident. But, it's hard to be, extremely confident just because Phil Rowe's a different look. I don't think Orion Kosi has ever fought anyone like Phil Rowe, and Kosi's still green. So there's some, path to victory for Phil Rowe, but I do think, as the line continues to go down, it was over -2-1. Now I see it, on Bet Online right here at -170. If it continues to go down, maybe under -150, I think it's a good price to go in on Kosi at that point. So that's kind of what I see in that fight. With this next one, Ashley Yoder versus Jinyu Frey, kind of one I have to look into a little bit, but man, I'm favoring Yoder, I guess, because she's just has such a size advantage. She might be able to just grind out Jinyu Frey, but this is one where I don't know. I mean, Jinyu Frey could be able to win. She's better on the feet. She's much more athletic. And she's pretty strong in the clinch herself. So I want to look into that one a little bit more, see exactly what I think. But right now I'm leaning towards Yoder in that one. Just, I feel like that's kind of a throwaway fight on the card, though. But this next one, we got Ronnie Lawrence taking on Trevin Jones. Talk about not a throwaway fight on the card. Excellent fucking fight. These are two of, the better 135 prospects in the UFC, in my opinion. 135 is fucking stacked, man. Like, so many guys there at that division. But we got kind of a contrast in styles in this one, where Ronnie Lawrence, he's a kicker mover, stays on the outside, throws a lot of leg kicks, throws a lot of spins, good distance control. But, sometimes he will kind of throw with his hands down. He will throw kicks too close in the pocket. And Trevin Jones has proven, man, this guy has dynamite in his hands. He's a knockout puncher. And, I went in on Trevin Jones' last fight, and everyone was picking Mario Batista, man. I remember that. It was like, people were calling me crazy. I said, no way Trevin Jones was going to win. And that was a good matchup, in my opinion, for Trevin Jones, because you had Mario Batista, who's a really kind of reckless forward pressure striker who is green, and Trevin Jones has great counter punching. He's very accurate, stays super composed, has knockout power on both hands, was able to land that left hook and, flatline Batista. We've seen him land the right hook, knockout Timur Valiev. So this guy, he's also shown ability to weather a storm and come back. Very durable, tough. He's a veteran. And he also trains at Extreme Couture. He's a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Seems very strong, solid for the division. But there's been fights where I've seen him taken down, controlled. If you check out a recent fight that I put up on my YouTube channel, him at Deep 89, he actually lost that first round by kind of getting dominated in the grappling, getting taken down, getting controlled. And with Ronnie Lawrence, that's a possibility for him. I think Ronnie Lawrence has a chance to go in there and just ragdoll Trevin Jones, grind him out, get the win that way. Trevin Jones has to be very turned on with his grappling. And one thing I don't like about this matchup for Trevin Jones either is the fact that he's had 3 different matchups for this fight card, and they've both been strikers previous to Ronnie Lawrence. So now he's going to have to change his game plan a little bit. One thing I think a lot of people do, man, and it's not really a good strategy in my opinion, is they'll get burned. Like I said, a lot of people were on Batista, right? And obviously, I'm sure a ton of people were on Timur Valiev. So they get burned by a guy like Trevin Jones. They're like, damn, this guy got 2 knockouts in a row. I've been going against him. They'll bet on him. They'll be like, I'm going to bet on him. They don't really think about the matchup. They don't really think about, extenuating circumstances, factors. And with this one, I'm going the other way, man. I'm going to go with Ronnie Lawrence. I'm sure Trevin Jones is going to be a pretty, fun underdog for people. I think people are going to be picking him to win. But I feel like matchup-wise, with a guy that's a kicker mover, it's not going to give Trevin Jones as many opportunities to land his counters as a guy that's going to be forward pressuring, staying in the pocket, like Timur Valiev, like a guy like Mario Batista. And Ronnie Lawrence needs to try to attack that body, front kicks. We've seen Trevin Jones kind of susceptible to body attacks, and just try to get the takedowns. And I think that he's going to be able to mix it pretty good. He's going to make Trevin Jones a little frustrated by the range he keeps. He's not going to give Trevin Jones a lot of opportunities to counterpunch. And Trevin Jones can be low volume. So if he doesn't get that knockout, he, struggles to win decisions in certain fights and has some split decision losses, close fights. And I feel like Ronnie Lawrence is going to be able to win this one. So give me Ronnie Lawrence here. I know he's coming in on short notice. But also, this minus 135, he opened as a much bigger favorite. And I think minus 135 is decent value there for Ronnie Lawrence. Decent value for him. And, might be a good bet to play. So Ronnie Lawrence is going to be my pick for that one. And up next we got Ryan Benoit taking on Zarrukh Adashev. This is a rebooking, and I actually picked Zarrukh Adashev, and I'm going to stick with that most likely. I'm going to look into it again. I'm going to watch a couple more of their fights, but I just feel like Ryan Benoit is a guy that's on the way down. Zarrukh Adashev had a really good performance in his last fight against Sumandarji in a loss. He's a good striker, and I don't really see his opponent really try to take him down. Benoit does have a chance to get the knockout, but I feel like Zarrukh is going to come in great shape, ready to go. And, I don't think his first fight in the UFC against Tyson Day was indicative of the type of fighter he is, because he was way out of shape. He missed weight. He looked fat on the scale. And he's going to come in better shape just like he did versus Sumandarji, and he's going to give it a go. So I think Zarrukh you have a striking fight versus another striker that's on his way out, kind of low-level striker with knockout power and Ryan Benoit, and I think Adashev could get the win in that one. So give me Zaruk Adashev there. And for the last fight, for the first fight of the card, Danny Chavez versus Kai Kabaka III. This is a short notice bout, I believe, for Kai Kabaka. Danny Chavez was actually going to fight Dooho Choi, who's a really popular Asian fighter, really good fighter, and it would have been a big, high-profile matchup for him. But now he's getting Kai Kabaka, and Kabaka, a lot of people thought he got robbed in his last fight, and he's a really tough guy. He, has good wrestling, good striking, mixes it up. He's young, comes from a fighting family, and Danny Chavez, he's a good striker, skillful, trades out of the MMA Masters camp. He has decent grappling as well. His last fight, he kind of got exposed against Jared Gordon, where couldn't really stop the takedown. And that's what Kabaka's going to be trying to do, take him down, control him. I don't know. That one I really don't have a strong lean on. It's a newer matchup they just announced, and got to look into that one. So I kind of agree, minus 110, minus 110. Maybe I would give a slight lead to Chavez, but yeah, I think it's a good fight, pretty even fight on paper, and that's kind of what I have to think about it. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like button on this video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Going to be putting out some new content on the channel. Really appreciate everyone that supports. Put some comments down below. Tell me what you think, and talk to you guys later. Going to be dropping that prediction video probably on Tuesday night or Wednesday night.